Hello my beautiful haunted raindrops, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Hello my little ghosties. There's literally a ghost in here too. Talking to him too. If you've never been here before, please make sure you subscribe right down there and then press on that tinkly bell so you know when I next do a video. I don't know where that's coming from. I've got Cambridge brain today, so you're gonna have to excuse the old girl. The Brows, they're cousins. They're not sisters today. We're gonna get serious again. When is my videos ever serious? So recently I uploaded a video about my experiences working in haunted stores. I've worked in so many stores. It's a literal joke. It's a physical joke. In a nutshell, out of the 10 stores I've worked in, there was 4. You know, 4 that were extremely haunted. One was a lot more haunted than the others, so if I keep talking about one particular store in these future videos in this kind of subject, I'm sorry. One of my recent places I worked at, it was a physical joke, and it looks like I'm out there to get the store. I'm not. It's just because the that went down there, it was a physical joke. You couldn't write it. A couple of people in my personal life actually kind of noted out I'm particularly going at this store, and I'm like, no, I'm not. It's because there's so many stories there that it's just a joke. So we're gonna put in the disclaimer. This video is not out there to get the managers I worked for, nor the customers, nor past colleagues. This is just for your entertainment. All the stories are 110% true, but I'm gonna fake everyone's identity for their own protection. Okay, so now I can't get sued. Can ghosts sue you? That would be cool. Can you imagine? There'd be like a scenario in a lawyer's office, and there'd be 2 ghosts go through the divorce process, and then one ghost would be like, it's like you're never there. If I make some insensitive jokes, it's not my intention. When you have experienced this kind of thing throughout since birth, obviously if you've seen my vlogs, this place is quite haunted. It's so if I sound like I'm being sensitive about people who are no longer here, that have passed away, or dead, or ghosts, or whatever you want to call them, that's not my intention. It's because throughout my life I've experienced this. The more you experience things like this, you sort of like try and put a bit of sense of humour into it. You have to. Let's put the key in the ignition, shall we? God, this place. I worked in 4 haunted stores and a couple of pubs. One was more than the other. I quit after the first day working there, believe it or not, but that's another video. So let's get to the first story. This story was about the last place I worked in. Like I said, it was living hell. Not just the dead ones, but the living too. I stopped doing the cashing up because the nasty ghost in there scared the living shit out of me. Not only that, there was 2 ghosts. So one was mischievous. I didn't feel anything bad from him. He was lovely. He was very mischievous, very cheeky. I think he was young. And then we had this disgusting one that we mentioned on the last video. The tall dark thing. That's what I called him. So if you guys don't know, I basically, in a nutshell, I call it a gift. It goes down my family. Basically, I see and hear dead people. So this was just after I refused to do the cashing up anymore because of that dark thing. So I had to cover. People would be a no-show, and people just didn't want to do it because they couldn't get out of there quick enough. Sorry. Me manager, I'm gonna call her Fiona. Fiona waltzes up to my till about an hour before closing time, of course. It's always me. I am the least person that wants to be here. Why would I want to spend another hour and a half counting pennies and notes and closing the fucking haunted store? But me muggins, I said yes to everything until towards the end when I learned I had boundaries. It's like my therapist now says, I have boundaries and it's healthy to express those boundaries and learn to say no. Fiona waltzes up to my till, and I knew this was gonna happen because someone called in sick. Well, that morning. This was like an hour before closing time. It's like, bitch, why didn't you lot try and find someone earlier? No, they asked muggins. I don't want to be in a haunted store longer than I normally am. It's not just the dead people that bothered the out of me. It was the living too. And I was a mug. I have no bad feelings towards her. It was who she was. She was a very hot Scorpio woman. Said everything how it was. She was very blunt. I don't mean to make her seem rude, but that's how she was. But it's not a bad thing. Probably gonna watch my video. I look at her and she looks at me while I'm down there cleaning up this sandwich, half-eaten sandwich that was abandoned on the floor. So I'm underneath, right? Chloe! I know what you're gonna ask me, mate. As I'm pulling out this nasty ass sandwich, the owner is right there looking down at me. What do you want to have a go at me about today? Fiona was like, Chloe, I need you to help me close up. I've got no one to help me close up tonight. I'm looking up and I'm like, can I say no? You couldn't say no to this woman. But that's who she was. And that's how I always will remember them. Like, if you've got a strong character, I'm the kind of bitch that remembers people through their character. Not by what they were wearing or what they smelled like or what their hair looked like that week. I remember people through their personality. I'm like, yeah. Because I'm a f***ing mug. Counting the minutes away, it's closing time. I had that little tiny spark of excitement and then I was like,
oh no.
I remember that I agreed to close up. Did I agree to it? Not really, I was more talked into it. For God's sakes, everyone leaves, walks towards the horizon into the sunset of freedom. Then there's me. And then I would meet the manager in the office. Me and Fiona are cashing up, got the cashing up done. And now what we had to do was go to the warehouse and go to the clock in and out tingy. Sorry. Clock out, go into the tea room and the cloakroom to get our bags and belongings, and then set the alarm at the back of the building and walk out down the haunted aisle. Did not like. That was the Dark Thing's favourite place. It was like his hangout spot. I would more like canter down that aisle to get out there. Then we start cantering down the back aisle to get towards the cloakroom and the tea room to get all our belongings. Well, no. Ghosty wasn't ready to say night-night yet. We're waltzing up the aisle and we had this garden aisle. I don't think it's there anymore, but we had like these ornaments and stuff. We're about 20 meters away to get to the staff door to escape. And then out of nowhere, not one but twice, me and Fiona, we just literally paused and stopped and our eyes were going everywhere. It wasn't just the fact that like I had experienced this, another person was with me and I fucking loved it when it happened in there. When there was another witness with me to witness the fucking Miyake, all the poltergeists that happened in there. It moved things without you knowing. It had no shame.
I feel sick talking about this.
You could tell she was pooing herself, but then she went all like brave, strong Fiona.
That's the air vent.
F off, that's the air vent. Piss off with that one. It was loud. She was trying to be all hard and brave and was like, that's the air vent. I was like, piss off, that's the air vent. Still looking at each other, I went, bollocks, that is not the air vent. That air vent never works. It come to the point where I would go to the bathroom. The air vent pipes would be above the ceiling of this bathroom. Black water would drip onto your lap. And then we found it was from the air vents. Because they were domain, they didn't do anything. Back to the bottom. I'm looking at them like, bollocks. That is not what you're saying it is. I wish it was, but it's not. Walking a bit further down now. This is about 10 meters away from one step closer to getting out of there. Then again, bong. This bong noise was similar, but it was louder. It sounded like metallic. So we look at each other again. I went, mate, if you're gonna say that's a fucking air vent, not done anything for like 84 years, if you say that again, I will do something. Fiona, can we just check the cameras? Because this ain't right now. There must be someone in here. So we go into the office. She's babe, I want to get home too, but I want to make sure here we ain't got mass murder in the building. So anyway, go on to the cameras. We see these garden ornaments, not one, but two. Straight to next Wednesday. Top shelf. This place had a lot of to in it. Worse than my bedroom. But these shelves went up quite high that I couldn't reach them. They were like metal animals, like ornaments. Two of them, not one. They're two doggies. Two doggos. It's not like there would be so many on there that it would like push them down. It was like 4 of them left. They had plenty of space placed between them. I look at this camera. Fiona. We see these two ornament animals, not like, they were too heavy. Picking up these right, whenever you had the return, as soon as they give me the bag with the bloody ornament in it, I'll be like, hey, pass it to me, darling. Personally, if they were that heavy that they were gonna fall, I thought they were gonna knock the shelves down. But we were looking at this, right, and they weren't just going, no, yeeting across the aisle. And I'm like looking at Fiona, I'm like, Fiona girl, come on. I'm not insane here. You know, Fiona just looks at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, Fiona. Read the room. Can you see what I see on there? I mean, I'm crazy, but me. This was so clear. Oh, off. Hello? I don't know if you guys heard that, but the ghost has just knocked something over in the kitchen. Fabulous. My parents have just gone out. I think my ghost gets excited when I do this video. He's like, oh, relatable. Even though that happened quite a few years ago, girl, that was quite traumatizing because I thought someone was still in the store or someone had broken in. She's quiet. I'm like, girl, you know it's true. She won't admit to it. 2 clocking out, set the alarm off. I tell you this now, she walked out a lot faster than she normally did out of that building that night. We locked the front door. A lot of the time when we locked that front door, a large majority of the time, I would see Saint just floating like that. I'm like, oh, cute. And a couple of the managers actually clocked this. To be honest, I think this was like the cheeky ghost and this wasn't the nasty one. It didn't feel like it was gonna kill me. It'd be like sometimes I'd be serving until late at night or throughout the day. And then I would like look at the shelf like across me. A bottle of washing detergent would go. I'd be like, bye Phil, see you later. So that was fun. Ooh, sorry. So the next story comes from when I used to work for Marks and Spencer's. Not gonna lie, I had the best times working there. Even though it was a little bit dusty. It was a very old store. Not only you had to walk through this nasty Dementor alleyway to get to the back to clock in. A Dementor would definitely have flown its arse in there. Trust me. God, this alleyway used to make me poo myself. It was horrendous. Let's just say the warehouse was very old, dingy, shady, scary as all arse. And the manager at one point was non-existent. So this was towards the end of me working there. Not gonna lie, I had the best times working in there. I worked there for a few years. I think it was a lovely place to work. Then I'm gonna badly mouth this place. Not gonna lie, it was haunted as all arse. Things falling off the shelves, the doors opening and closing at the back. It was mainly like the staff department of the building and that warehouse. The warehouse. Well, it was fabulous. Like I said, I've experienced so many things since I was a baby. I'm used to it. But when you hear children, or when you see ghost children, horrendous. So this was approaching the time I was about to leave there because this is when I was a plus size model back in the day. So yeah, I was getting a lot of jobs at this point. I was on set all the time, traveling London a lot. So eventually I had to leave that job because we was on set shift. It was very rare I went into the warehouse because I would basically do the fresh produce in the morning and eventually they put me on tills because they liked me on tills. Well, the other job didn't. I just recently left. This is the thing. When you're a very jolly, very bubbly checkout chick, some managers don't like it very much. Let's just say that. So this was a time when the manager wasn't around very often. She was always gone. A lot of people left and it started to get a bit lonely in there, you know. The ghosts kept me in company, but hey. I had finished my shift and this was like Christmas time. It was busy, it was short-staffed at one point, it was mad. Manager off somewhere, don't know where she went. Gone for 10 working days. I would finish my shift by about 10 in the morning. One of the girls that had just clocked out and she was leaving, she was like, oh, what's happening, girl? I've left fresh tomatoes. I remember it so specifically. Marx's were extremely strict. When you left food like on the tills or in the warehouse where they should be refrigerated, they were strict. They were on it, girl. Babe, don't worry, I'm here. Superwoman is on the way. I'll handle it. Back to the haunted warehouse. It was this warehouse was something else. It was like going into one of those abandoned changing room building kind of places. Rusty as all arse. The one thing I remember about this place, I don't want to get sued. Nowadays are a lot more stricter, so I'm pretty sure they've done a lot of procedures in this building to make it safer. But this thing I didn't think was very safe, girl. You'd open the warehouse door, walked into the warehouse, and there was like a set of like steep, long concrete stairs. When you would turn to your right, drop. No handrail, no nothing. Stairs, fall to your death. The amount of times I would run in there for somebody or grab something for a customer, the amount of times I'd almost fall through the pit of death was a physical joke. Every time I'd go in, everyone would be staring at me like, just waiting for me to fall to my death. That's probably why we didn't have a manager. They fell down the fucking pit of death. Oh, I need to grab something. It was literally a 10-meter drop. I see this pack of tomatoes on the corner, on this desk at the corner of the warehouse. Oh, I hate this. When I hear children, ghosty children, or babies laughing, or anything like that, I know that sound's not coming from the living, I find that very f***ed up. I'm approaching these tomatoes. And then, out of nowhere, I hear crying. Like a baby crying. You know when you hear something like that, then your maternal instinct just kicks in? Like, I remember stopping. Has a kid gone through the back of the store? It's not possible. Because you had to use your card to get through the door into the up warehouse. It would bolt shut. You physically couldn't just waltz in there. A customer couldn't just go fall down the pit of death. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm like calling out hello, and I am constantly hearing this child crying. This was like a child in distress. Felt like hours, but I think I was in there for about 30 seconds. I could feel the hairs at the back of my neck stand up. You stand there still, you don't know what to do. And I'm like looking around like this, like a lunatic, looking around the corners. There's no one there. And then one of my colleagues, who was there for many years before I was, comes in, booms the door open, because it makes this big when you open it, because it was such a big old store. The doors even creaked more than my back. I'm gonna call him John, and then he's standing there. I'm looking at him thinking, please tell me you can hear that. I'm like this at him. He's just standing there like, I'm like, what? Bitch, what? You can hear a kid crying out of nowhere, and there's no kid inside. Bitch, what? I've been there for a few years, but this was the first time I experienced that. That was horrendous. That made me feel physically sick. Walking up the stairs, I'm like, John, there's a kid crying. I don't know where it's coming from. He looked a bit confuzzled, and he was like,
oh, you didn't know?
I'm like, no, what, mate?
Oh, this happens all the time. It's fine.
I'm like, what? My eyes are watering, so I'm like, I was distressed thinking there was a kid that's like injured themselves or like fallen into the pit of fucking death. That's probably why there's a ghost child there in the first place. Probably fell in the pit of death. So he told me this has been happening for the 20 odd years he'd been working there prior. You could hear a child crying in that one particular area, and no one knows why, and no one knows where it comes from. The amount of times security, he said back in the old days, the security would walk in there and investigate the whole entire building when the store was closed, obviously, because they used to think there was a kid like got locked in there or something, because kids are stupid. Looked at the cameras. Well, this would be like pixelated now. These cameras in this store were so old. They literally look like Microsoft Paint. Just squares. That's how old this store was. No one was there. That girl, no. When like that happens, that's when it freaks me out. And it's distressing because you're looking around looking for this baby or toddler or child, thinking it's injured itself or it's in serious trouble, and it sounds like it's in distress. Your maternal instinct kicks in and you're running around looking for someone, and there's no one there. It's mate. And at odd occasions you would hear children giggling and laughing in the changing rooms, because these changing rooms in this Marks and Sparks, I don't want to get sued, they did kind of look like a low-key abandoned swimming changing rooms. What I would do was, a little confession, but this place was like, well, nightclubs and that were back in the day. I don't know if it's like that anymore. I'd go out clubbing. Yes, this bitch actually clubbed. Yes, because back in the day, this bitch left the house. Whenever my mates would drag her out of there, she was the designated ugly fat friend. And she still is to this day. We would go out. We're Lee Evans now. We'd go out, and then what I would do was, because I was young at this point, I was a regal mop, come back in from the nightclub, fresh from the nightclub, melting on the floor. Walk in about an hour or so prior before my shift, and I always had clothes to change into because we had lockers. It was sick. I'd have a little kiddie nap in the changing rooms and chill out for a bit, and then I'd be back to life again. Shame I can't do that anymore. I'd be like laying like this, and then I would hear kids laughing, and it was horrendous. It wouldn't just be me, like there'd be another girl that actually clubbed in the same sort of places I did, and the amount of times we would be like this and get up like that like Jack Sparrow. Bewildered and befuddled because we could hear children laughing, like happy laughing, coming out of nowhere. Oh, it was Frank. Anyway, next story. My advice to you, if this does happen to you, like I said, I have had so much experience from people who have passed on. One of the things that they do to make themselves known, which is not okay, when they touch you. If this happens where you live or where you work, that's not okay. No, Felicia. No. Sorry. They're not to do that. But this happened to me. Of course it happened to me. So this little story happened at the place I recently left. left. Oh god. Ghosties talk to me. I see ghosties. But when they touch me, I'm like, no, Felicia. I'm off, Felicia. Bye. So this place I recently left was haunted, as all are. This is about an hour before closing time, and this was during the weekend, so this was quiet. It was eerie, as all are. You'd have Boris there looking at toilet rolls for an hour and a half. The shoplifter that was obsessed with bleach. True story that was. You could tell that he would be melting people in a bathtub that he had murdered. But that's another video. Sorry. This night was quite quiet. I'm sitting on the till being a checkout chick. Apparently a one. Sorry. Anyway, I'm sitting there reading a bottle of bleach. How quick can it take to kill me? Make the time pass. Yeah, that's what I used to do. I'd either like be singing to Backstreet Boys in the background, Amy Winehouse. That store never changed its playlist. I'm sitting there reading this bottle of bleach. This is when I went through a phase where I just wore my hair up all the time because my scalp was so horrific. These chairs that we sat on had no back on, nothing. It was just a little stool. So there wasn't anything behind us. Me, it was a quarter of a metre, then wall. I was at the back of the haunted building. This is making me itch, remembering this. And then out of nowhere, it wasn't like, no, this was like yank. This actually hurt. It hurt. And I turned around like that against the wall. There's no one there. Half a split second I thought, was it the cleaner or was it one of the boys that did the evening shifts just pissing about with me? Like to jump scare me? There was no one in there. Press the headset. Manager? Manager? First of all, I'm halfly thinking, this is not cool. So yes, we've got one ghost that was very mischievous, very cheeky. I never felt bad vibes off him. He was very nice. I think he was young. Then you had the dark thing that was spiteful, as all are. You would think that someone had just pissed in his cornflakes every morning. This one was always livid. And it would be there on that corner and I would just be like staring at it because it was making me feel uncomfortable. He always knew I noticed him. Even though this tall dark figure didn't have a face, like we just had like eye contact. I'm certain he liked to make me feel uncomfortable because he knew that I could see him. The half part of my brain, the little brain that I've got left up there, that little nut, thought, hell no. Is this one of the boys on the floor that pulled my hair and then ran off and went to hide? Just to jump scare me? Or was it the worst case scenario that the dead guy just pulled my f***ing hair? Manager waltzes up to my till. And I said, look, I know this is weird. I know we've had a very shit day, but is there any way that you can go in the office and look at the camera because someone has just really scared me and I want to know who it is because that's not funny because it actually hurt. I was tested that day. Not just the customers or the dead ones. But the managers. So yeah, I was losing my wits end with this place at this point. So this was about a year or so before I left there. You know me, I've got a weird sense of humour. This wasn't funny, it actually hurt. He waltzes into the office. I get the, Chloe, there's no one there. I see you turn around, absolutely pooing your pants. And there was no one f***ing there. That was horrendous, mate. That was horrible. But also, when you get an omen like that wants to hurt you, this wasn't even like, oh, ha. It was like, aha, bitch, I'm gonna pull off your wig. Just, yeah, it was disgusting. We couldn't explain it. Play nicely, Felicia. I walked into the toilets. I stood there and went, right, I know you're in here. Let me just survive the day of this hellhole. And then when I walk out, you can poltergeist as much as you f***ing like. But you are not grabbing my wig. It was disgusting. Like I said, I'm used to this, but when you've got something that does that to you, that's not okay. That's a bad omen, girl. You need to get that fire exit door and get out of there. If you're working anywhere like that, that is haunted, as all are. Up to the brim with dead people and ghosties. And grims and goblins and ghouls. That's the managers. Sorry. Get that fire exit door and get out of there. That's all I can advise you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. I've got multiple on the way. Give me a big fat like button because that helps me out massively. And if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel right down there. And make sure you press on that tinkly ringy bell so you know when I next do a video. Ta-ta, ghosties!